On a quiet street in a peaceful town, there stood a row of old, beautiful maple trees. The leaves rustled softly in the breeze, and the shade they provided was a welcome respite from the summer sun. The street was called Maple Street, and it was where the residents of this small town had lived for generations. The houses on Maple Street were old, well-maintained, each one a testament to the love care of its inhabitants. Children played in the yards, laughter filling the air, while neighbors chatted over fences, sharing stories, recipes. It was the perfect picture of a close-knit community where everyone knew, cared for one another. But Maple Street held a secret. It was a secret that only the oldest residents remembered, a secret that had faded into the background like the faded curtains in their cozy living rooms. The secret was about the ghosts of Maple Street. No one knew when the ghosts had first appeared. Some said they had always been there, as much a part of the street as the maple trees themselves. Others claimed they had arrived one by one, each with their own story, sorrow. Whatever the truth, the ghosts had become a part of the fabric of Maple Street, woven into its very essence. The ghosts were not the scary, haunted house kind of spirits. They were more like echoes of the past, whispers in the wind that only the most attentive ears could hear. They appeared as translucent figures, their features blurred indistinct like faded photographs. They would materialize for a moment as if to remind the living of their presence, then vanish just as quickly. The children of Maple Street were fascinated by the ghosts. They would gather in secret hideouts, sharing stories they had heard from their parents' grandparents. The adults, however, were more guarded in their discussions of the ghosts. They would exchange knowing glances, but they never spoke openly of the ghosts' presence. One warm summer evening, a young girl named Lily decided she had enough of the whisper's secrets. She was determined to learn the truth about the ghosts of Maple Street. Lily was a curious, brave girl with a fierce determination that belied her delicate frame. After dinner, Lily slipped out of her house unnoticed, her heart pounding with excitement, a little bit of fear. She made her way to the center of the street, where the maple trees formed a natural canopy overhead. The sun had just dipped below the horizon, and the sky was painted with the warm oranges, pinks of sunset. Lily stood in the middle of the street, her eyes scanning the shadows for any sign of the ghosts. The only sounds were the distant chirping of crickets, the soft rustling of the maple leaves. She waited, her heartbeat thudding in her ears. Just when she thought she had been foolish to believe in the ghosts, a figure appeared at the edge of her vision. Lily gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. The figure was translucent, like a shimmering heat wave on a hot summer day. It was a woman, her long dress billowing around her as she drifted closer. Lily forced herself to stand still, her eyes fixed on the ghostly apparition. The woman's face was blurred, but her eyes were clear, full of sadness. As she drew nearer, Lily could hear the faint sound of sobbing. The ghostly woman seemed to be crying. Trembling with fear and curiosity, Lily managed to whisper, "Who are you? Why do you cry?" The ghostly woman seemed to sense Lily's presence, for she turned her translucent face towards the brave young girl. The sobbing grew louder, and Lily felt a pang of empathy in her chest. "I am the spirit of Maple Street," the ghostly woman said, her voice like the rustling of the leaves above them. Lily's fear dissipated, replaced by a deep sense of sadness. She reached out a trembling hand, as if she could somehow comfort the ghostly figure before her. "What can we do to help you?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The ghostly woman seemed to consider the question for a moment, her translucent form shimmering in the fading light. "You cannot help me," she finally said. As the ghostly woman's words faded, so did her form. Lily blinked, and the spirit was gone, leaving only the rustling leaves, the last glow of the sunset. Lily stood there for a long moment, her heart heavy with the ghost's words. Slowly she turned, walked back to her house, her thoughts swirling with the weight of the encounter. The next day, Lily shared her experience with her family and neighbors. At first, they looked at her with skepticism, but as she recounted the ghostly woman's words, their expressions softened. They began to share their own stories. Memories, stories passed down through generations, stories that had been tucked away like treasured heirlooms. As the days turned into weeks, the residents of Maple Street began to see their street, their community, in a new light. They organized neighborhood potlucks, block parties, reviving traditions that had been forgotten in the busyness of life. They spent evenings on their porches, sharing stories, laughter, the warm glow of their porch lights chasing away the shadows of the past. Lily became the unofficial guardian of the ghost story, reminding her neighbors of the importance of holding tight to the threads that bound them together. The ghosts of Maple Street continued to appear, their translucent forms drifting through the shadows, but now they were seen as reminders of the love, connections that had built their community, rather than as sources of fear, superstition. The takeaway from this story is that the ghosts of our past, both literal, metaphoricals, can haunt us, guide us. It is up to us to choose whether we let them tear us apart, bring us together. The residents of Maple Street chose to weave their ghost stories into the fabric of their community. And in doing so, they found a new appreciation for the bonds that held them together. As the sun sets on Maple Street, the ghosts continue to watch over their beloved street, their translucent forms, a reminder of the power of love, connection, and the enduring strength of a community that chooses to remember its past, embrace its future.